恭敬大德圣听，为此法会集一切众生，请转妙法轮教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchetoye alahadi samyo sambuddhasya.
Namo sadanto suchetoye alahadi samyo sambuddhasya.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。
Recording in progress.
Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo 大方广佛华严经华严海会佛菩萨。Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of great expanded teachings and the ocean-wide flower garland assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Oops. And good evening, everyone. Tonight we are, two of us are replacing Reverend Sher, who is traveling and so could not do the lecture tonight. So Dharma Master Jing Xiang and myself will be exploring the Avatamsaka Sutra together with everyone. So we also want to acknowledge the country that we are in. Dharma Master Jing Xiang is in Ukiah, so that's the land of the Pomo. So we acknowledge the Pomo people who practice their spiritual connections to earth and to all creation here on their ancestral land for tens of thousands of years. Today we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. And in Chinese, Pomo 人在他们祖先的土地上修炼他们与土地和万物的精神联系已有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这些土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事者，并向其过去、现在和未来的长老表示敬意，以及主权从未被割让的所有第一民主的人民表示敬意。And we do the same. Oops, no. For I'm currently in Berkeley, so we want to acknowledge the Chochenyo Ohlone people who've also practiced their spiritual connections to the earth and all creation here on the ancestral land for tens of thousands of years. We acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands, and offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 那我再往回来，所以这里是巧曾有Ohlone人的祖先的土地，他们在这里修炼，他们与土地和万物的精神联系，已经有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事者，也向他们过去、现在和未来的长老们表示敬意，以及主权从未被割让的所有第一民主人民表示敬意。阿弥陀佛。I'm going to just recite this. The bells sound, wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，功勋即是法界和平，利益报贪龙厚德。Okay, so today we will be discussing the next part in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Last time, Reverend Sher went over some of the verses that we are in chapter 39, entering the Dharma realm, and this is the chapter of Sudana's journey through 53 teachers and the different bodhisattva stages. And we are still in the very beginning. So last time, Reverend Sher was reviewing some verses that Samantabhadra, Universal Goodness, Bodhisattva, spoke in praise of the Buddha. And now in response, we will see what happens. So let me share screen so we can recite the Chinese and English first. And before we go into explanation, we will also invite Jingxiangsi to share the Sanskrit with us, because this chapter happens to have Sanskrit still available. So if everyone could put your palms together, we will start with the Chinese, the first paragraph. 尔时世尊欲令诸菩萨安住如来狮子平生广大三昧故，从眉间白毫相放大光明，其光明普照三世法界门，以不可说佛刹微尘数光明而为正属，普照十方一切世界海诸佛国度。And the English. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to bring all bodhisattvas to peacefully abide in the Tathagata's vast charging lion samadhi, released a light from the hallmark between his eyes. The name of this light was universally illumining the gate of the Dharma realm in the 3 periods of time. And an ineffable array of lights, as many as dust particles in Buddha kshetras, accompanied it. They illuminated every Buddha land in an ocean of worlds throughout the 10 directions. So now let's go to Jingxiangsi, who can share a little bit about the Sanskrit with us, which is quite special.
Hello, I'm going to share the screen here. Here. Yeah, just extracted the English.
We're seeing the same PDF that I just read from. Are you wanting to share the other one? Garland Sutra?
Oh, you want to share the PDF?
No. What I'm seeing is the PDF.
Well, I'm sharing this document here. Oh, you're not seeing it?
No, I'm seeing the BBM document. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sharing Cliff or someone else. Can you see my document here? It says
No.
share screen. No?
We can see your document, but it's page 13, the same thing I just read. Not your document with the Sanskrit.
Oh, okay, let me stop it
Yeah.
and do it again.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this, yeah, we're lucky to have this Sanskrit text. This is here, this first section, paragraph here, and I was looking at different, the words and looking up the meanings of the Sanskrit words in the dictionary, and this is what I found here. This the name of the samadhi. Or do we want to read the
Read it.
Sanskrit first? Okay. Okay, here's Sanskrit. We make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I'll do it slowly. So, Atakalu,
Vatakali,
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
Bhuyasya,
Bhuyasya,
Matraya,
Matraya,
Desham,
Desham,
Bodhisattvanam,
Bodhisattvanam,
Adraiva,
Adraiva,
Simha,
Simha,
Vijrim,
Vidrim,
Pide,
Vite,
Buddha,
Buddha,
Samadhau,
Samadha,
Sanni,
Sami,
Yojanartam.
Yojanartam.
Okay, here's, I will break up these for the sake of pronunciation. Okay. Ru,
Ru,
Viva,
Viva,
Rantarad,
Rantarad,
Urna,
Urna,
Koshad,
Koshad,
Dharma Dhatu,
Harman Dhatu,
Samanta,
Samanta,
Vara,
Vara,
okay, Vishnyapti,
Vishnapti,
Triyadva,
Triyadva,
Triyadvava,
Triyadvava,
Bhasam,
Vasam,
Nama,
Nama,
Rashmim,
Rashmin,
Nishcharayitva.
Nishcharadva,
Okay, yes. An,
An,
Abhila,
Abhila,
Abhilapya,
Abhilapya,
Buddha, Kshetra,
Buddha Kshetra,
Paramanu
Paramanu,
Rajaha
Rajaha,
Sama
Sama,
Rashmi
Rashmi,
Parivaram
Parivaram,
Dashadik
Dashadik,
Sarva
Sarva,
Lokadhatu
Lokatatu,
Samudreshu
Samudreshu,
Sarva
Sarva,
Kshetra
Kshetra,
Prasaran
Prasaran,
Avabha
Avapa,
Sayati
Sayati,
Sma.
Sma.
Okay, so this is the word here that is in question. Yes, Simha. Simha means lion. So Vrijim Pitti. Actually, in the dictionary we found this Vijrim Pitta. It means yawning, coming out, appearance, manifestation. So if you look at the translation, which is from the Chinese, either lion sprint or charging lion samadhi. So that's quite a lot of difference. Charging, okay. So here's a yawning, so just coming out from sleeping or passive and not acting yet. But here's already charging. So that's one difference I found. And then also next paragraph, we have this part. Various names, various forms, various purities, various dwelling places, various shapes and appearances. So I don't find names and forms. And then last one, shapes and appearances.
Interesting.
So here's the last one is dwelling places. Yeah, but this is firm standing places, grounds, foundations. Could it be that this is as an interpretation of either shapes and appearances or forms? I don't know. But here's the big difference here: powers and strengths instead of names and forms. So this is as far as I went.
Okay.
Compare the English and Sanskrit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for checking out, comparing. So, I mean, one of the reasons that from a scholarly point of view, the manuscripts first, they were memorized and it was oral tradition, so passed on generation to generation orally, and then later written down on bamboos or on paper or something that doesn't last very long at first. So it's very possible that there were many versions, many manuscripts of the same sutra circulating. And so the Chinese translation that we have, and the Sanskrit may have been translated from a different Sanskrit manuscript, perhaps. So those are all possibilities, and also that sometimes the writing gets smeared or dissolved, or the scribal errors. So, one letter can make a difference to turn into a different word. And that goes the same for the Chinese as the Sanskrit. So tonight, let's look at this sutra. First of all, it's quite, I would say that the Avatamsaka, what I wanted to share before we get into the sutra, actually. Let's see this. Okay. I wanted to share just a refresher of some instructions Master Hua, the Venerable Master, had about this sutra. And maybe you have all seen this. So let's just go. Oops. I need to share screen. Let's hope you can see this in slideshow form. Oops. Okay, can you see this font large now? Okay, hope so. Anyways, the Avatamsaka Sutra is, Master Hua said, is the mother of all Buddhas. And so he also said it's like an auspicious cloud in empty space which extends throughout the 3,000 great thousand world system, the galaxy of a billion worlds, raining down the sweet dew of Dharma rain to moisten all living beings. It's also like the great earth, which can produce and grow the myriad existing things. From beginning to end, every phrase of the sutra is an unsurpassed Dharma jewel. If we are able to actually apply and cultivate according to the principles in the sutra, we are certain to become Buddhas. Now, so this is a really powerful sutra, especially now in the times that we are living, which are very troubled and full of crises, and even our existence into the future being threatened by the climate, the global warming, and all the myriad crises resulting from that or causing that. So the sutra seems like an excellent antidote if we can use it as a, actually employ its power. And so we have to actually cultivate it. And see. Master Hua further says, none of the Dharma doors goes beyond the self-nature of each one of us. That's all the Dharma doors in this sutra. So our self-nature too exhausts empty space in the Dharma realm. So this is the sutra of the Dharma realm, and our self-nature is also as expansive as the Dharma realm. Therefore, if you can expand and enlarge the measure of your mind, you will unite with the Flower Adornment Sutra, being two yet not two. So that's the challenge. Can we unite with the Flower Adornment Sutra and make our minds as vast as the Dharma realm, a tall order? If all people can make the states of the Flower Adornment Sutra their own states and receive the Flower Adornment Sutra's limitless principles and infinite wisdom as their own, how vast and great that will be. So I feel that Venerable Master Hua is giving us this gift, this very precious Dharma jewel, and giving us a challenge to really use it. Let me see if there's something else here. Oops. Okay, well, I'll just go really quick. The most recent IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, report this year says almost half of the world's population lives in regions that are highly vulnerable to climate change. So the deaths from all these disasters are 15 times higher in these vulnerable regions. So it's a really great challenge, and we need to now look back at the sutra and see how we can apply it. So I challenged everyone today to use your full mind, heart, and body to let's immerse ourselves in the sutra and see if we can draw from it the inspiration and the power to help us with making a really big difference in the world. Okay, let's go back to the sutra again. Oops.
Can you put in the presentation mode?
I'm now going back to the sutra. Yeah.
Oh.
When I'll do that next time I go to the PowerPoint. So at that time, the world honored one, wishing to bring all bodhisattvas to peacefully abide in the Tathagata's vast charging lion or lion sprint or yawning lion samadhi, we don't know. But basically, like Reverend Sher said last time, it's a very powerful samadhi because a lion is a very powerful being, a very strong, energetic, vigorous being. So even if he's just starting to wake up, it can be very powerful. But just in a note, applying it or just linking back to our current world, there were lions in India in the Buddha's time, and now there are hardly any left. They almost went extinct last century sometime, and there are now a few, some hundreds that are still being nurtured in a sanctuary in India. But the climate crisis has wiped out so many species and has really depleted the biodiversity of our world, which actually impoverishes all of us because all different forms of life are connected, and we can learn a lot from the different manifestations of them. So the Buddha hopes that to bring all the bodhisattvas to abide in this very powerful, strong samadhi. And Master Hua said this sutra is not just spoken to the sages and the great bodhisattvas. It's actually being spoken to all of us. So what does that mean for us? Perhaps we also need to find a very strong, stable mind ground from which to stand and to be able to face the overwhelming suffering that's going on in the world, not just to turn away and go about life as usual. And because as Buddhists, and as those who aspire to become bodhisattvas, really we need to face the suffering and also realize some kind of interconnectedness. So, and look at how the Buddha is teaching. He's not actually talking in words. In the sutra, he's releasing light from between his eyebrows, the special hallmark. And this light has a special name. It's called universally illumining the gate, or you could say in the other translation, the gateways, plural, of the Dharma realm in the 3 periods of time. So what might that mean? This light seems to cover a lot. It's illuminate all the different entrances or approaches to the realm of the whole phenomenal reality, all that exists in 3 periods of time, throughout all time. So it can see not only the present moment, but it can see into the past, beginningless past, and into the future. So it can have a very clear picture of all the complexities of causes and effects intertwined that are happening throughout the 3 periods of time. And then there are many, many other lights that are accompanying. So it's not just one ray of light, it's many, many lights shining together, illuminating all the different ways that we can approach this realm of phenomena of reality in order to be attuned to it, and also to be of benefit perhaps to it, like the Buddha is. And then he illuminates every Buddha land in an ocean of worlds throughout the 10 directions. So where are these Buddha lands? I can't see any of you, so I don't know if you have some answers. Are these Buddha lands far, far away? Maybe we can contemplate. In some sense, like Venerable Master says, the 10 Dharma realms are not beyond a single thought, right? So perhaps these Buddha lands and all these Dharma realms could be as close as the thoughts that we have, the thoughts in our minds. Let me stop share for a second. So perhaps you know from the Sixth Patriarch Sutra, it talks about how thoughts of kindness and compassion are Guan Sri and Bodhisattva. Thoughts of joy and equanimity are great strength Bodhisattva. Purity is Shakyamuni Buddha, and having a very impartial and straightforward heart is Amitabha Buddha. And so the Sixth Patriarch gives us a clue that in the landscape of our own heart, we can find all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, as well as all the other realms of beings that are not so pure and compassionate like these. We also have the jealous and deluded and angry and greedy manifestations, which are other beings in our own world. But it's true that whatever we put our attention on, we can strengthen those frequencies when we read the sutra and contemplate the sutra, especially the sutra. We can attune to our own Buddha frequency and Bodhisattva frequency and lessen the strength of the frequencies of arrogance and egoism and desires and afflictions, cruelty, vanity, dissoluteness. Those are all mentioned in the Sixth Patriarch. Worldly passion, lust, and hatred. Those are other beings that are also in our mind. But if we attune to that very purifying Buddha frequency, then those other frequencies will be purified as well. So let's continue looking at the text. So this again is maybe an exercise in expanding the scope of our minds. So as I read it, perhaps you can visualize it. At that time, the great assemblies of bodhisattvas in the Jada Grove. So these bodhisattvas are the ones that are seeing all the light and what it's illuminating. These bodhisattvas in the Jada Grove saw that within all Buddha kshetras, filling the Dharma realm and the realm of space in every particle, were Buddha lands as many as dust particles in all Buddha kshetras, replete with various names, various forms, various purities, various dwelling places, various shapes and appearances. I guess I should read the Chinese. 十多灵菩萨大众，悉见一切净法界、虚空界，一切佛刹一一微尘中，各有一切佛刹微尘数诸佛国度，种种名、种种色、种种清净、种种住处、种种形象。So these bodhisattvas who are in the Jada Grove with the Buddha are now seeing that in every dust particle is filled with Buddha lands. And so first of all, there's all these Buddha lands out there, you could say, outside the Jada Grove, filling the Dharma realm. And then in every one of those dust particles within all those Buddha lands were again Buddha lands as many as the dust particles. So it's like a exponential explosion of Buddha lands. And all of these Buddha lands have, you could say, the lands or the Buddhas in them have their various names and forms and different kinds of ways of being pure. Because Buddha lands, if they have a Buddha, are being purified. And various places, residences, various shapes and forms. The lands come in different shapes and forms, which is described also in another chapter in the Avatamsaka called the coming into being of worlds. So this is, again, it's to expand our minds, but not to just stay there, daydreaming about different Buddha lands in different dust particles, but actually just to come back to where we are now. Right now, we're on planet Earth, and this place, at least from our perspective, seems to be pretty desperate. It's in trouble, and there are there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of destruction, and so maybe not a lot of purity, but still every single thought, every single living being, both inside our minds and outside, every single person and being, we can make a difference by cultivating that purity. And the next thing is, in the midst of those Buddha lands were great bodhisattvas seated in their bodhimandas on lions' thrones, accomplishing impartial right awakening. Great assemblies of bodhisattvas circled around them, and the world rulers made offerings. So this is amazing that in these Buddha lands, each one of them, there was a great bodhisattva. Usually it's one great bodhisattva who becomes a Buddha, accomplishes that perfect awakening. And then he is surrounded by other bodhisattvas, and all of the rulers, the nations, leaders, all come to make offerings, the kings of the different states at that time. And again, in our own hearts, we also have those thoughts of compassion and wisdom, joy and equanimity, that are maybe momentarily having a little bit of awakening when we focus on them and when we allow them to come forth. And so this does apply to us too. So I forgot to read the Chinese. 如是一切诸国度中，皆有大菩萨坐于道场，狮子座上，曾等正觉，菩萨大众前后围绕，诸世间主而为供养。Okay, and I should read the Chinese first. 或见于不可说佛刹量，大众会中出妙音声，充满法界，转正法轮。或见在天宫殿、龙宫殿、夜叉宫殿、千塔婆、阿修罗、迦楼罗、紧那罗、摩诃罗伽、人非人等诸宫殿中，或在人间春意聚落、王都大处，现种种性、种种名、种种身、种种相、种种光明，住种种威仪，入种种三昧，现种种神变，或时自以种种言音，或令种种诸菩萨等，在于种种大众会中种种言辞，说种种法。Okay. Or they saw great assemblies. Actually, I think in Chinese this says that, or they saw them in great assemblies, as meaning they saw the ones who were attaining, becoming awakened. They saw them in great assemblies, as vast as ineffable Buddha kshetras, emitting wonderful sounds, filling up the Dharma realm and turning the right Dharma wheel. Or they saw them in heavenly palaces, dragon palaces, yaksha palaces, Gandharva, Ashura, Garuda, Kinnara, Maharaga palaces, and in the palaces of humans and non-humans. Among human beings, or they saw them among human beings, or within villages, towns, hamlets, or capital cities. These bodhisattvas, fully awakened bodhisattvas, appeared with various family names, various personal names, various bodies, various features, various auras, and various deportments. They would enter various samadhis and show various spiritual transformations. At times speaking their own words, or instead they would bring other bodhisattvas in their many assemblies to speak many dharmas in diverse languages and dialects. So again, this is expanding our mind, because we also want to emulate these great awakened beings who are able to be in many different kinds of assemblies, very different kinds of communities, different cultures, different crowds or different types of groups, and emitting wonderful sounds, sharing wonderful ideas that are turning the right Dharma wheel, meaning sharing the truth about the nature of reality, that we are all, everything is interdependent, interconnected, and that there is a shared Buddha nature underlying everything, so that we cannot fail to care about what's happening to living beings who are outside our own family, our own culture, our own country, our own religion, because our actions do make a difference in the current, way that the system is set up, certain people like us have time to sit down and we are well fed and we have the leisure time to come and listen to a Dharma lecture. But that's not the case for everyone. Because our system is founded such that those who are affluent are able to be this way because of the support of many, many others who need to, struggle for a livelihood, work very hard, but not make enough to even make ends meet. And no matter how hard they work, they may not ever be able to rise. There's, the social mobility is limited because there are certain obstructions. It's not completely impartial and compassionate as we would hope that our society is. And these awakened beings not only teach humans, but they also teach the gods. They teach the dragons, who are also in the animal realm, but they have spiritual powers and they can live in the heavens and the oceans, and they control the weather according to some ways of thinking. But anyways, there are also different beings, that yakshas, gandharvas, that we don't see, but that do exist and that do have a relationship with us. They may be all of these listed are protectors. So they are protecting us as we try to practice the Dharma and be helpful, virtuous people. They support that. And so these leaders, these awakened beings, great bodhisattvas and Buddhas, will go to teach in these palaces or homes of humans and non-humans, and going into also the villages and towns and hamlets, appearing in different forms with different names. They may be in the aristocratic class, like Shakyamuni Buddha was, or they may be in the clergy, or they may be working class, they may be outcasts. So since they can appear in any form, we never know when we are meeting one of these bodhisattvas. But they do have samadhis and spiritual transformations. And they also work as a team. Sometimes they speak on their own, and sometimes they will bring in other bodhisattvas to speak. So and to speak perhaps in other languages and dialects, because the Dharma is valid for all sentient beings who suffer, because the whole goal is to allow us to end our suffering by getting rid of this delusion of a separate self. And that's the common delusion that most sentient beings operate under. I've been talking for a long time, so I don't know if there's any questions. You can always convey that, perhaps. I hope that works. And also I'd like to ask if Jingshanshu would like to share a bit, either in this sutra text or further on for the next bit of time. You're muted.
Can you share the same screen again?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Just want to point out a few things.
Okay. Here?
Yes, this is okay. Yeah, I was looking at the bodhisattvas appearing in various family names, various personal names, bodies, features, auras, and deportments. So I remember Venerable Master saying that there are many Buddhas, and they are not the same, but on the other hand, they are the same. But the reason they are different is because they made different vows. So the same with bodhisattvas, they have different family names. They come from different families. They have their own personal names, and various. They make different vows, so they have they appear differently. And they have affinities with different people, different groups of people, and various deportments. That's interesting because right now we have one preceptees in 108 days of training at the CDR and Berkeley, Berkeley maybe. So they are learning precepts and also deportments. So deportments are proper ways of behaving, proper ways of standing, sitting, walking, and so on. So deportments, if you act in a way, but not trying to be, not trying to attract people, but just in the proper way. When your mind is proper, then you will act in an appropriate way, and naturally you will have that appearance of nobility, and that's how you attract people, attract others without forcing to attract people. And auras, again, auras are energies that you may or may not see it, but you may be able to feel it. And so depending on your mind and energy level and the energy of virtue, you will be able to attract people toward you without trying. And again, another point I want to make is in the previous paragraph, we have bodhisattvas sitting on lion thrones, and each of those great bodhisattvas are surrounded by many bodhisattvas. Again, if you look at the great people, for example, Venerable Master Hua, he is surrounded by his disciples. But it's not that Venerable Master was trying to have them surround him, in a special way, but disciples are attracted to, or like a magnet, attracted to Venerable Master Hua because of his virtue. And so if one is virtuous and pure, without even trying, people will be attracted to that virtuous person. So again, also, I remember one time there was a layman who passed away. I think he was one of the board members, and he was his memorial service was done at the CTTV, and there were a lot of people who came to pay respect to him, and a lot of buses of people, probably his employees or his the co-workers or people who he supervised. And I was pretty impressed that this layman was able to attract a lot of people when he passed away. So it tells you that probably this person was a wholesome and wholesome leader, and who was able to work with people, lead them in a proper way, and probably was able to guide them in without causing them to be afflicted, without causing them to quit their jobs or whatever. So that's an example of a virtuous leader. And also it tells you that that person will be in the future a bodhisattva who can attract other bodhisattvas.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, there is a question in the audience. Could you please talk about the Avatamsaka's approach to resolve the climate crisis more? How does the Avatamsaka Sutra inspire modern people's environmental consciousness? Okay, I actually did prepare a few slides along these lines. See if we can share them. Oops. Basically, first I'm just going to stop share. How do I do this? I want to share the full screen.
At the bottom, there's a...
Yeah, when I share full screen, then I can't stop. I can't see the share button anymore. So if I go in sharing before I make it full screen, it doesn't get bigger. Let's see. Oops. Can you see it bigger now? Even though it's not full screen.
But you can also click on the button to the left a little bit, right? Yes, this one.
Now is it big?
It
doesn't show big, right?
No.
Okay, let me try new share. Okay, now I know how. Okay. Now you got it, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so first about the climate crisis. I think at least the way most people around us act, it doesn't really exist because people are still going about their lives as usual. But just to share a few facts or a few scientific data that, the whole goal in the for the IPCC and everything is we try to keep the rise in the carbon dioxide, in the temperature, below 1.5 degrees Celsius. It's already climbed up 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So we only have 0.4 degrees left to go because it's predicted that if we exceed 1.5, then there will be very severe destructive patterns and unpredictable very climate chaos. So in order to keep it within 1.5, then a carbon budget has been calculated that because based on the ongoing rate of carbon burning throughout the world in all the different areas, there is a fixed amount of carbon, 400 gigatons, that are left to be spent. And at the rate we're going of 42.2 gigatons per year, that only gives us about 6 years if we want to keep it under the 1.5 scenario. And that's not really 6 years. I mean, an IPCC, I think, also said that means that by 2025, we need to curtail the continuing rise of the carbon, the burning of the fossil fuels and the releasing of methane and carbon into the air. So, but right now it's still going up and up and up because all the fossil fuel companies are still, digging and extracting like crazy, because everyone complains about the gas prices. So Biden is actually greenlighting more projects, fossil fuel projects, than even the previous president. So he's really not living up to his promise. So you can look up this carbon clock. It on the website, it's actually decreasing, as time goes on. And this is Jim Hansen, former NASA scientist who was first sounding the alarms on climate change, and he recently put out something. It's a draft report that saying that actually, okay, you can see 1.5 here, but the prediction is that we are going to actually exceed this by 2040. Will be in the 2.02 degrees higher range, which will be very much more terrible for most of the world. Remember, 50% of the world is in vulnerable areas already, whether, like, why? Because, well, let's look at the next slide. This is a climate scientist in Princeton who's measuring the sea ice at Antarctica, and it's every single day in 2023, it's been below average in terms of, the amount of sea ice. So this is the red line showing how much below average it is, below the mean. And so that's very concerning. In fact, all of the climate scientists are very worried because this year, like this came out from Bill McKibben, at least he sent it out, that the sea temperatures are off the charts, or even off the wall that the chart is on, because it's significantly above the mean from the last, or 82 to 2011. And then every year has been a little bit more, but this year is a lot more warmer. So as it's rising, then also the ice is melting, the sea levels are rising, and for example, Florida is sinking, or as the water rises, all of the coastal areas are in danger, all the island nations are in danger. And so Peter Kalmus is one climate scientist at NASA who really for 16 years has been trying to raise awareness about this alarming situation, but nobody has done anything. So he last year actually decided to take action, and he chained himself to the doors of Chase Bank, because that's one of the 4 great polluting banks who invest in fossil fuel enterprises. So he just did that, even at the risk of losing his job, because he felt that losing the future of his children is is a greater risk than losing his job at NASA. So he, basically said what everyone is saying, that there's many different levels where we need to work. One is just holding actions like decreasing the amount of burning, passing laws, fighting against the fossil fuel industry, which is so, so wealthy. And but then we also need to draw from all the different wisdom traditions and earth traditions that understand actually the earth knows how to take care of itself if we just let it alone. And we also have ways to take care of ourselves that are based on emulating the systems of nature. And also we just need to shift our consciousness to be able to think in the way that Avatamsaka Sutra really details so well. This very, very vast mindset that sees all living beings as part of one, network. So we're basically all brothers and sisters. We're interdependent, and we need to care for everything from the lowliest ant up to the, all the different cultures and races and countries. We can't just fight, just like the Buddha stopped a war, between two tribes fighting over water. He just said, but why are you shedding blood when, water is for life, but you're killing each other? It just doesn't make sense. So taking, holding actions, meaning to stop or slow down the harm and destruction. Dr. Kalmas used to fly, because all the academics they have and scientists, they fly to different conferences, to meetings, and he just, some years ago, he decided, I'm not going to fly anymore. It's just goes against my conscience, and feels, because, speaking of the carbon budget, if you divide that, each person has a carbon budget that is a fair share that we can use. And if you take a single transatlantic flight, it uses up, your whole carbon budget just like that. So that's why he decided, we have Zoom now. I'm just going to use Zoom. And then he also started he didn't start, he was part of the Scientist Rebellion. 1,000 scientists started that. Like they were saying, we see all the data and we can't sleep at night. We are so anxious and grieving, seeing the destruction. He said, he used to go to nature to, climb some mountain or something, but he couldn't even go there because it was so distressing to see all the more dying trees and, because of this climate crisis. And I think we have all seen that. The redwoods that we love so much, there's a lot more drought, and a lot of the trees are not healthy in some places, so forth. But anyways, let me keep going. Oh, this was just his action, being chained to the glass door. And he did this more than once. He also chained himself to the door of the private jet, international jet terminal, because they're, people who have private jets are also really big fossil fuel users. But and the UN secretary is Antonio Guterres. He's really great because he sees the problem, and he's been trying to wake the whole world up. And we now have many movements with young people leading them. Fridays for Future, the Sunrise Movement, and also other, many movements. So being a climate activist is actually maybe something that we should all consider doing, not necessarily to go get arrested, but just to speak out and to do things that are possible within our own, communities to make a difference, because every single person has a lot of power when we connect with the whole web of life that cares about. So let's see what else I have here. Okay, back to the sutra. Here's some commentary from chapter 4, which is on the coming into being of worlds. And this is from Master Hua's words. if you wish to see the Dharma body of the Buddha, contemplate the mountains, rivers, and the great earth. They are all the Dharma body of the thus come one. So now we see this, that since it is the Dharma body, shouldn't we pay some respect to it? And also in another part of the commentary, he says, like a person, earth has its skin, blood, flesh, bones, and marrow. It's just that the earth is much more massive than a human body. And within the earth are hot substances, just like in the body, there is warmth. When there are landslides or when the seas dry up, you could say the earth is sick. When it quakes, the earth is like a person having seizures. The sickness of the earth, unlike that of people, takes a long time to develop. So even then, back in the 70s, the earth was already not doing well. And that was when people were already rallying to slow down and stop, this fossil fuels. But now it's much, much worse. The Amazon is being cut down and burning up. And Canada is, having, let me see, what was it? A lot of over 10 million acres have been burned. And in the 400 some fires, over 250 are still out of control. So that finally, it's covering the East Coast and affecting quality even in the Midwest of the US. I mean, in a way, that's a good thing because this kind of terrible air quality and this kind of fires and floods and everything is being experienced on a constant level in many, many countries. And so those are sometimes referred to as sacrifice zones, because if we don't change our way of life, I mean, thinking that we can drive everywhere, fly everywhere, and heat our homes with, gas, it's not sustainable. And it means we sacrifice those in, low-lying and poor countries that have no resources to fight climate action. So their lives are being sacrificed, but actually the whole earth is a sacrifice zone. So I think, yes, it feels overwhelming and we shouldn't be hard on ourselves when we do have to drive to work or whatever, because we are in a system that has forced that to be the only option. But at the same time, we can be imagining a different world where things are done differently, where wealth is distributed differently, and where the whole, like what Dr. Kama said, the goal of the system is not accumulation of capital, but the flourishing of all people, global north and global south, and the flourishing of all life on this planet. Because our economic system is embedded in the biosphere, and if we take down the biosphere, the whole ecological planetary ecology, we lose everything, and we don't have an economic system anymore. Let's see. So, remembering our relations in the web of life, such as all the protector spirits of nature. And chapter 1 of the Avatamsaka goes through many detailed lists of all the different kinds of river spirits, ocean spirits, mountain spirits, crop spirits, medicinal herb spirits, and ocean spirits, and so forth. And then has descriptions, and Master Hua saying that actually these leaders of these spirits are all bodhisattvas, and then they have awakened to different Dharma doors. And so, like, for example, I just picked one. This forest ruling spirit helps the trunks of all trees to grow taller and emits a pure light, a purifying light. So I don't know about you, but for me, when I feel stressed and very anxious about anything, but especially about this overwhelming crisis, I usually go, like some of our other nuns, Jinrosha, we go to sit under a tree or hug a tree or just lean against a tree and talk to the tree, because the tree has been here longer than us, the forest has been here longer, and they have their, their energy, and there's this really different kind of non-cognitive presence, and you could say a kind of wisdom that can awaken that kind of wisdom in us, which is an embodied presence and energy and light that will give us a lot of power, a lot of faith, and a lot of hope from which to approach, this challenge. This challenge is pushing us to wake up that this system is not working. And we have all, invested a lot into the system because it's what we needed to get an education, to get, a job and a career, and to survive in this kind of culture, this rat race, which values production more than human, like how we're related to each other, how we trust and feel and help each other, the relationships, the feelings, the emotions, all those are pushed aside just for the numbers, that are measurable, and the results, data-driven results, or the production, more and more and more production and consumption. So that really dehumanizes us. And it's so even just, for the whole reason I actually was attracted to become a nun at the City of 10,000 Buddhas was because I would get to practice and study the teachings and live a life where I didn't have to drive to work every day and worry about all those things. Of course, I recognize that we are supported by many, many people who do have to drive to work and make a living and then make donations. So I feel like even, living that kind of life is not perfect, not the ultimate. It's an aspiration. But ultimately, I think we need to have a system where everyone lives that kind of life, where everyone, basically we still rely on outside input to survive, donations so that we can, but there are some communities where they grow all their own food, they build all their own buildings, they run all their trade and barter system within a community of a few hundred or a few thousand people. And so that's doable. And that's what the indigenous people were doing, basically. The Ohlone, or, I don't know enough about them, but anyways. Oh, wow. You just felt an earthquake. Hope it was a good one.
Pretty big.
A big one. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you
I
want
just
to say?
immediately recited Amitabha. Yeah.
Well, that's the earth speaking to us that
Yes.
we're either that I'm sick or that I agree that we all need to wake up. Right. I want to say a bit more, but I don't know if that gives an answer. I think it's a shift of consciousness, but it's also taking some kind of action and, making a different way of living our life in whatever capacity we can. But even because we're still within a system that we cannot live our lives in a completely sustainable way right now, because everything is interconnected, and we need to help the parts of the world that are not able to make that transition on their own, because we cannot just say stop burning coal if they have nothing else with which to make a living, or stop cutting down trees. We have to, that's why it's basically we're all in this together, and it takes that the more affluent countries need to help those that are less able to make the transition, or else, you know, the Amazon will just keep getting cut down, and more swaths of Africa and other parts of South America will keep getting destroyed at great cost, and also the, you know, the permafrost in the Arctic, because they're digging for, either through digging for, you know, fossil fuels, or through the melting of the permafrost just with global warming, releasing more methane into the air. Okay, but more positively, what can we do as Buddhist practitioners? Well, I think the shift of consciousness when we do our practices, whether it's reciting, chanting, meditating, bowing in repentance, this culture, I mean, this Western civilization, and especially the US, was built on a genocide of the first peoples, and also slavery. And it has its ideals, but it also has these dark, you know, shadow side of its history. So as people who are benefiting from this country, we can help with a collective kind of repentance for all of that harm that was carried out, terrible genocides, and then that are still going on now in other parts of the world. And also to be remembering that we are part of a great web of life, or a Indra's net, you could say, where all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are just tuning in, or if we tune into them, they tune into us. So when we cultivate, I mean, like Master Hua said, everything that we practice does make a difference, and is amplified by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and we can, you know, actively call on them to help awaken everyone, and also call on all the earth-based spirits to keep protecting the resources and the natural resources that we still have. And it does help, because most modern people have forgotten our connection with nature. If we could, you know, consciously foster that by, you know, acknowledging, even if we are, I mean, the best is, of course, when we can go hug a tree and, you know, be in touch, go, you know, farm or garden, or just take a walk in the forest, but also acknowledging every single thing, even the computer, the table that is here, the camera, all of this is made from Earth's resources, even though we turn it into plastic, or, you know, very unsustainable things, but we have to thank the earth for it. And another thing, of course, is promote a vegan diet. Many of us are already vegetarian. Going vegan is a good thing, because factory farming of those dairy cows, or those egg farms, is not only cruel, but it's a huge pollution and generator of of carbon and methane. And also to be mindful of our own ecological footprint, because there's that carbon budget for the whole world. It has only 400 gigatons, and that doesn't leave us a lot for ourselves. There's a lot of websites that you can go calculate your own carbon budget and see if you can stay within it, so you only use up your own fair share and leave the rest for other people. That might mean that you take fewer flights, even to come to CTTB, or that you, if you want to, you know, take some flight really means a lot to you, then you cancel all your other flights for several years, because, or, you know, we find more local ways. Not only do we need to buy local, like products. We don't need to have our food shipped from, all over the world and packaged in different places. That's just insane. It's just for making money. So if possible, support your local farmers market. It might be more expensive, but don't always look for the cheapest, because when we are looking for the bargain, we have to know that someone on the other end is losing out. Usually it's the farmer or the worker that made the product is getting paid, not enough to survive. So, and plastic, of course, comes from oil as well. So if possible, avoid plastic packaging. And the more important thing also is, I think, joining different groups of people, because it's very nourishing actually to find many people feel the same way as us and have this grief and have this anxiety that we can't sleep. And when we meet like-minded people, then the synergy increases. And there are people like 350.org in the US. I think it's actually global, People versus Fossil Fuels. There's a group called Sitting for Survival, which is Buddhist, and they started out in the East Coast, just sitting, somewhere in a public square or on the steps of a library or something, with signs of climate messages, but also it's very nonviolent, it's very peaceful. Just as people walk by, they see the signs, they might reflect and think about what we are doing. I recently did participate in a couple of Sitting for Survival events on the West Coast, and it was, sitting on a busy corner with other Buddhists, some Zen Buddhists, some Theravada Buddhists. It's very inspiring to me that people just take a day off or a couple hours off to do this, and you meet wonderful people. There's so many good people who care about nature and care about changing the way we do things. And it really will take a collective effort for this to happen. I maybe want to, for the local people, there's a group called People's Alliance for Earth Action now, founded by Tanisara and Kidasaro, whom I got to know because Kidasaro is in our Dharma Ram Buddhist University, and Tanisara was speaking at Sudana Center. So it was through them that I joined this activity. And I mean, it was just a few people, but gradually through just being there, just also meditating outdoors is just so wonderful. Even if there's traffic going by, but you can just tune that out. But also it just makes us very aware of how much traffic there is. And when it's possible to walk, to bike, or nowadays to use one of those scooters, it's really good exercise, and it's fresh and not polluting, not burning your CO2 budget, or using public transportation. It's actually quite wonderful as well. Oh my dear, we are running out of time. So I think we better dedicate the merit and appreciate everyone's questions and listening, and Jingxiangsi as well. Okay, let me find. So when we dedicate the merit, we really want to send this good energy out to the world and maybe also with a wish that people all will awaken to the disaster that is challenging us to wake up and to make a big change, and also to get together and work together and share our feelings together, because it's been too long that we haven't been able to do that. So I encourage everyone to try your best, and also don't be too hard on yourself, because we have already had these habits and ways of life for a long time. And so it's not going to change overnight, but just having that awareness will make it easier, and knowing that it makes a huge difference. Okay, here's the dedication of merit. If everyone can put your palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with love, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. The people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless life. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Hold on, I'm going to share the next. Okay. Please bow 3 times. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Amitofo. Good night, everyone.
Amitofo.